Transform your product idea into a business reality. I'm Callie Keene, and this is End Hype. All right, today I want to talk about something a little bit more in the weeds, a little bit for, my physical product entrepreneurs, my engineers out there, my people that have that idea and are looking to actually build it. I know we go over a lot of concepts and mindset and actions. Today we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into something that I understand really, really deeply. This is a part of my daily life. It's just prototyping, man. It's how do you get that idea out of your head and how do you start to actually build it? And we're not going to talk about all these processes. What I'm going to give you is I'm going to give you a few of my secrets, the few of my techniques that I've developed over the years that cut prototyping costs and time down dramatically, right? It's not about just getting that idea and paying a CAD designer, an engineer to draw it and getting a machine shop to make it and reiterating and iterating. I'm going to give you a few ways to crystallize that idea, to physically validate it, prototype it, refine that idea on an engineering level much faster and better than you probably had the ability to just coming in, right? I'm going to take those costs. If you're using an outside engineering company, I'm going to take their costs and I'm going to cut them way in half, right? In half or by 2/3. All right. So let's just start right at the beginning. You've had an idea, you're ready to move forward, you're super pumped about it. You've got your advisors, you've got some people that you've reached out to, you've got your team is kind of being pulled together, but you're ready. Like you've talked about this product, you've talked to some customers, you know what you're going to build, why you're going to build it, all those fun things, but you're ready to turn this need into a solution. So the first thing, if you come from the maker community or the engineer community, software developers are big, they're big on this problem, is that there's this urgent desire to just start building it, machining it, fabbing it, welding it, printing it, drawing it. That's all great. We're going to get to all that. We're going to get to the meat, that fun stuff. But the first part of it is just getting clarity, right? Ideas that are in our head, even ideas that we talk to with our friends, family, interested people like customers or advisors, they're still pretty fuzzy, right? So professional product development, really the first thing that we do, the first step is to create a product's requirement document. You list out all the important things like what it's supposed to do, what happens when I drop it, from how tall, should it withstand a 6-foot drop or a 3-foot drop, or is it very fragile and that doesn't matter? Like all of those different elements. And I'll link in the show notes and we'll post the product requirement document, the PRD that Red Blue Collective uses. It basically just breaks up the different elements of the product and asks some critical questions. And this becomes, at first, it's just the stories, from the customer. Hey, I'm going to use this product in this environment. Okay. It just informs what we're going to do later so that we can check back to it. We turn those kind of stories into requirements. Hey, if they're going to use it at a pool, then our speaker needs to be IP65 or IP66. It needs to protect against water ingress, right? We turn it into a real requirement. And then later we're going to transform that into a specification. How do we achieve that requirement? Because this is the type of gasketing that we use. This is the type of construction that we use. This is how we're going to test it, inspect it. This is how we're going to validate that we meet those requirements, that meet that user story so that somebody wants to buy our thing, right? And we do this in a pretty structured way, but like all prototyping, we're going to get something down there and we're going to refine it as we go, right? So think of it like this. At first, we're going to have those stories, put them down so we can turn them into what it actually needs to do. Hey, it needs to withstand somebody dropping it on concrete. Okay, cool. That's a story. The requirement is how high, right? What temperature is it outside? What level humidity is it outside. It's actual numbers that we can move forward with. But right at first, it's just pretty basic, high-level stuff. But what you'll see when you try to put your idea down into the PRD, into the product requirement document, you'll find out that you don't have all the answers. You don't know, right? And what we always say is in the design process, in the business development process, gaps are good. Gaps mean that we're being honest with ourselves, that we have a lack of knowledge in a certain area, and that we need to go out, we need to go talk to a customer, we need to go talk to an engineer, we need to research our competitors, we need to take action to fill in that gap. But if we don't know that we need to find that answer, it's hard to realize that there's that gap, and it's hard to build a good prototype if you don't know it's supposed to do something. So that's what a good product requirement document will reveal. Okay, so let's move on to actual prototyping. All right, so let's get into the meat of this. Let's start talking about prototyping. I love this topic because we're getting really close to taking our idea and being able to hold it in our hand. And I think that is a unique experience to building physical products, and something that to this day, after hundreds of products, I get pumped every single time. You're just like, I didn't realize how small this was going to be, or I don't realize how big or how this was going to be. It's so cool. And I know you'll think the same thing, even just in these early prototypes. When you get the product, you'll be like, wow, this is cool. But let's lay some groundwork, right? Why do we prototype a thing? And this is a question that I get from first-time product entrepreneurs all the time. They want to draw something in CAD, or they want to have somebody draw something in CAD, right? Design a thing. And then they want to be like, how much is it to produce 1,000 of these or 10,000 of these? And they say, whoa, hold the phone, right? We have some steps to take. We can't just build a final product from CAD. We can start prototyping from CAD, but we can't just build something from CAD. It's because life isn't perfect, right? And the people that are going to help you, they're not perfect either. And each prototype is an experiment, right? And it's validating the design efforts and the assumptions. It gives us a tool to be able to answer questions that we just couldn't answer otherwise. You have to understand that with physical products, like, as we become successful and scale and manufacture lots of product, it's very expensive. It gets to be a lot of revenue right away, and we need to take rigorous steps to validate what our products should be, could be, along the way, so we don't just pay for a lot of junk, right? I've met people that they have a little shed out behind their house, or they have their garage, and you go into it and it's filled with a product that didn't work, or they couldn't sell, or they immediately had to go to a new version of it because they got excited in the wrong way, right? Get excited to do things in an iterative way, in a right way. One of the biggest purposes of a prototype that I push people towards is, like, when we build 100 units on production equipment, we have this amazing opportunity to go in and really see the product for the first time and go in and reduce the cost. And people want to skip that because they look at that step and they say, man, I don't want to make 100 of these things. This is going to be really expensive. Like, well, when you make 1 million, you'll save way more money if you do it this way. If you follow the process of prototyping, you're going to save a ton of money. But let's talk about those hacks that are going to get you to the physical prototyping a little bit faster, right? And when I started developing products, I've been using CAD, computer-aided design, right, since I was a kid, probably like 11 or 12 years old. So a long time. But even when I started to use 3D CAD and use SolidWorks, and that was maybe 15 years ago, 3D CAD was disrupting the whole market. You can see it nowadays, is that if you look at products from the 90s and you look at products from the 80s, everything was a little bit more simple, right? The curves were a little bit more simple. for the most part, at least consumer goods. They were just more simple because you couldn't design things in 3D. You couldn't see it. So really complex mechanical, really complex industrial design, really complex electronics, like there wasn't really a way to look at it. You're just looking at a 2D screen in AutoCAD. So everything's kind of like from a plane, looking at a plane. And one of the ways that we can really dramatically reduce costs is by we sketch out on paper what we're trying to achieve, and we use 3D CAD. We move really quickly. Autodesk, right? One of the biggest CAD providers, certainly one of the ones that's been around the longest. It's almost synonymous with CAD, AutoCAD, right? They have a product called Fusion 360, and it's free. Go get it. It's awesome. It has all of the pieces in it. It even does stress tests, like finite element analysis. It does crazy computer generative surfaces. It does the CAM that will run CNC equipment, but it also just has a really great surface modeler and CAD tool inside of it, and it's free. If you're a business, I think it's like $1,000 a year now, which is a lot cheaper than my SolidWorks license. So if you're just starting out, there's a lot of great ways that you can collaborate with your design team, or ways that you can go out and get the training and just start drawing yourself inside of Fusion 360. So I would definitely go look at that, and it's a way to cut costs. If you can get your design so it's a little bit more done, so you know what size and how everything should fit together, the more you refine those inputs. If you are working with an outside design team, engineering team, manufacturing team, the better your inputs, the better their outputs are going to be, and the lower the cost will be. This is for real. So I can take a project that the development would be $400,000 and reduce it to $100,000 or $150,000 just because we can refine a product requirement document and some initial sketches and really give better inputs. But when it comes to physically prototyping and getting those ideas, if you're engaged in prototyping in the design phase, here are some, I won't say shortcuts, it's really just smart paths that people are using to hack products right now. And there's an old technique. Let's say that you wanted a handle, and you'd see people at IDEO do this. They'd go to Home Depot, or they'd go to Walmart. They'd go to the store and they'd buy all the handles that they could, and they'd start modifying them. So they already know that people know how to make a rubber handle, so they don't need to invent a rubber handle. What they need to do is go look at all the rubber handles of the most successful products, like bicycles, tools, appliances. Look at all of those handles, because they know that somebody's already spent $1 million figuring that out, and they need to find all the attributes that they really already like. This is like modeling. This is what people do in business. They find somebody that's successful, and they model the approach and model the strategies that they use. So that's kind of the meta level of this. On the actionable level, if you want an item, like go to the toy store, right? Go look at how things interact. Go to Home Depot. Go and learn to see those solutions, how things interact. You can shortcut a lot of pain and figuring out something that somebody's already spent the money, the time to figure it out. This is on that subsystem level, on those piece levels. Your design will be better because it'll be informed of what already works. It's easy to make a better product if you start where the acceptable product already is, right? If you have 10 credits of effort and you already start at something the market already likes, you can create, a next level product. Does that make sense? It makes sense in my mind. But something that I really like to take this to the next level is I've been going on foreign sites. I've been going on, AliExpress, Alibaba, and I use those as searches. So if I want a particular subcomponent, or I want a similar product, I go and buy those products, and I look at them, and I take them apart. So if I want to know construction of a product, I can look at, here's 5 products. This quality is really good on this one. I can, at a certain level, I can also start validating where my production manufacturing is going and what the finished good would look like. I can start doing costing associated with what the final product would be, material selection, all those fun things. But really, I can just see on a very strict level, like, this is what a product that somebody spent hundreds and hundreds of hours developing already looks like. This is a critical hack. I can't tell you how much time this cuts out of the process, that if I'm trying to create a battery, people are literally, I'm working with people and they're like trying to invent their own type of battery and build the board for it and do everything from scratch. I'm like, but we can just buy a mobile phone charger and crack it open, and that's how battery management system is done with that type of battery. You can just look at it, and if we want to customize it, we can just call that company and customize that thing. Eventually, we'd want to make it all ourselves, but for the prototypes, we're just crack that open. Well, let's just use that for right now. And like later down the road, when we're going to make the 100 or the 1,000 or the 10,000, we'll make our own version. But right now, I just want to see, I want to put this product together just for our first prototype. We call the feasibility prototype. Can we actually build this thing? And when I build the feasibility prototype, I take those Frankenstein parts from Home Depot. I take those Frankenstein parts from existing products, and I put it together. It might just be on my table here, like a benchtop prototype, and it might be all separate pieces. It's not the right size. I don't print the housing. I don't do all those things. I just put it together and say, like, does this get hot enough? Does this stay cool enough? Like, how long does this battery life last, right? What would this little motor do? Like, what does this hinge look like? And I can just put it together, and I can go back to that product requirement document and make something that's a little bit more refined. And if you're at that stage and then you go to an engineering company and say, hey, this is what works and this is what I've validated from these existing pieces, you're way far ahead. You've just done, in my opinion, you've done like half of their job, right? Now they just have to make it look pretty. You might have already done some sketches and renderings, but all they have to do is take the looks pretty part and the works part, smash it together. We call that a looks like, functions like prototype, right? So that's the next level of the prototyping. And this is one that people generally they want to jump. But this has all the aesthetics that you want, and it has all the function that you want. And it allows you to test things like user experience. Give your product to somebody to try. Is it too heavy? Is it does not feel quality because it's like too light? Is it not balanced? There's just little things. Is it hard to operate? Does the battery life last long enough for their application? You know, what do they feel about the shape of it? Is it easy to hold in the hand? Lots of things like this, and you think like, Callie, how is this a hack? And I'm like, engaging customers at every stage, engaging people that are going to give you honest feedback is the hack, right? Trust me on this, is that if you develop everything behind closed doors, what you're going to get is you're going to get a product that isn't as good as it could be. Yeah. You're going to get a product that you're going to have to go back after you've made a whole lot of them and sold them and then gotten that feedback. You're going to have to go do another version of it. So generally, there's lots of iterative steps with this. So once we have that looks like, functions like prototype, we're able to get some feedback, refine our PRD, refine our design. We can move on. We can move on to the engineering that will happen, the prototyping that will happen to bring our product from something that's functional to something that is market ready. So what we're trying to do is, at this point, we have a manufacturing ready piece of documentation, and we're going to go through these different prototype stages. And again, this is going to be one of those things where I get a lot of pushback from customers, and they say, hey, I have this prototype. It works great. I want to make 10,000 just like this one. I'm like, but do you? Like, because that's going to be a lot of money, And this is what the legit process looks like. This is what prototyping really looks like. When we wrap this all up, I want to relay this to business growth and why prototyping products is just like prototyping business growth. But look, there's 3 stages to production prototyping, right? To going from that simple prototype to something where you could just pull the trigger and say, I want 100,000 more of these, and it's smooth, right? Nothing is perfectly smooth in life, but these are the 3 stages. We have engineering validation test, EVT prototypes. We have a DVT, that's design validation prototypes, and then we have PVT, production validation prototypes. So let me just bore the daylights out of you with this. But really at the end, what I want you to do is I want you to understand what this process looks like. So when you do want to release a product, you can say, hey, shouldn't there be a step in here that de-risks this process, that makes sure that I don't lose my house, lose all my money? I think Callie said that I should do this other step where I check some things. So when we move on to the EVT stage, maybe we're just making 5 or 10 of a product. But what we do is we want to say, does this product actually follow these functional requirements, right? We're not saying like, hey, does somebody like it? We're saying, does UL like it, right? Will UL like it? Will it actually do the thing? Like once it's all together and it's made maybe still in low volume manufacturing processes, but it's made in similar materials and similar fashion as the final product would, like, does it actually do the thing? That's our technical phrase. Does it do the thing? So power, thermal, drop, it's assembled by somebody else. Usually you can assemble some and you can go through that design for manufacturing and assembly process that we run people through. But really, I like a contract manufacturer to assemble it, because what it does, it gives them a gut check, is like, how much is it going to cost for somebody else to do it? What kind of quality can I expect when somebody else does it? So we're planning for scale. We're planning for success, right? And there's a real temptation with us hands-on people. We're passionate about this idea to be like, give it to me. I'm going to put it together. You should put together your own product and see why it's a pain in the butt, why it doesn't work, why it's amazing, all those things. But we're trying to figure out, the main part of this is, does it work and can somebody else do it, right? Not you in your basement on your 3D printer, not you ordering stuff online and putting it together in your garage. Can somebody else do it, right? If somebody else can do it, then you have unlimited growth potential. The next stage, once we're satisfied with that, and I guarantee that there'll be design changes from this. Something that we always talk about is, if you go through the design process and you haven't changed anything, you're not designing, you're just executing, you're just doing stuff, right? You're going through the motions. And with anything in your business, if you just are going through the motions like that without paying attention, getting better, getting the feedback, changing, adapting, if you're just going through those motions, you're going towards failure, okay? Prototyping, we're creating little experiments to validate our success. So the next stage is the design validation test. This is really, we're going to that, say 100 units. And sometimes these are good enough, and I hope that they're good enough to give to our early adopters, maybe to influencers, to investors, to show them like, hey, yeah, work's happening. Look at this. Definitely good enough to take pictures of, update our marketing materials, all of those things. But the main purpose of it is to send it to compliance testing. That's like FCC testing, so it doesn't radiate a bunch of signals and mess up other electronics. That's UL testing, so the product is, can be plugged into the wall and sold in America, and you can get product liability insurance. Another very nerdy topic to discuss. But if you're going to sell product and you're going to have your business, there's ways of limiting your risk exposure from a product not being great, right? But there'll be a bunch of tests, battery life, does somebody get shocked, like what does it do under drop, all of those things. That's what we're going to use the DVT prototypes for. Okay, please do not skip this step. Do not build 10 of something and then build 10,000 of something. That's how you get 10,000 that are in your garage, and that's how people go out of business, right? And there isn't a year that's gone by that I've done this where somebody has tried to skip this step and said, I don't think that I need UL testing because I'm just going to do direct customer sales. And I'm like, I'm not going to make that product, right? I don't think I need to do this because it's just a this and this. What they're really saying is, I don't want to spend $25,000 on this compliance testing. I don't care about business liability insurance. I don't care about you as a partner, and I don't really care about my business so much as my idea. And I know I can't make money with people like that because as soon as it's available, I'm going to be in that hot seat where they're like, I don't think that I need this person. I don't think I need to do this. These are shortcut people, and they're just going to undercut themselves until they don't have a business anymore, right? They're blessed beyond their capacity, all right? The final goal, our final goal is production validation tests. This is like the mount on high. What we're going to do is we're going to make the product on the actual equipment at the contract manufacturer using whatever manufacturing process that you've come up with. I even advise people to take it to the fulfillment house so they can kit it and we can inspect exactly how it's kitted, right down to how it's shipped on a pallet, right? If you want to get really nerdy with me about product development, it's something that we get into. Shipping a lot of product, the size of the box and how it fits into the next size box, like the retail box or the master carton, and how that fits on a pallet can save you a ton of money. You make a pallet so it fits in a container, right? Make your product so it fits on the pallet, and everything is a cube. Cubes ship, and they're inexpensive, right? So can this be made by someone else in volume? Like, is the assembly documentation clear? Is the test procedures for each product clear, right? Is the quality control process clear? Do you have lot inspections? Do you have, photographs that are taken, or what, there's lots of things that we've developed in the EVT and the DVT that we're then implementing in the PVT. And what we're really looking for, in my opinion, is a product that can scale. Because you can build pretty much everything. You can just muscle through it, right? You can just do a really, put in tons of effort, assemble everything yourself, check everything yourself, ship everything yourself, and just crucify yourself, right? You'll have no life, and we don't want that. What we want to do is we want to build a trust relationship with a manufacturer and be able to just order on a schedule, so we know I have that locked down. Now I can focus on developing another product, do another marketing, another marketing push, another marketing campaign. I can focus on my internal processes or my sales process or whatever, and know that you're set in this one other thing. That's really what we're trying to shoot for, and that's what the PVT should allow us to validate. There'll always be, shipping crises, or what we're seeing with COVID, right? What we're seeing with the lack of commercial airlines making shipping costs go up for air shipping. There'll always be something, but we at least need to know that on the product level, on the execution level, that problem is settled. So that's really the prototyping process, and all of my kind of tips and tricks thrown in there as quickly as I possibly could. Still ran about 20 minutes, but what I really want to move to is the parallels. Let's move back to kind of a business strategy portion. Let's look at the parallels of the prototyping process and actually growing a business. Okay, it's unbelievable to me to see the parallels and see the pitfalls that are in this process are the same pitfalls that other people have, right? Where they say, hey, I'm going to do everything myself. or they say, hey, I'm just going to hire this person. I'm not going to manage them. And why do my sales stink? Right. So like, let's look at this from this production manufacturing perspective. We've gone through the process and we've kind of done it ourselves. We understand a lot about our product. In the case of the business analogy, we have done a task, we've done an internal process, and we understand how it works. We have tried it ourselves. A good goal to have if you're trying to grow your business is on all of those routine processes, we're trying to fire ourselves. Create that process, map it out, write it down. Then we want to see, is this clear enough that someone else can do it? If it's not clear enough that someone else can do it, we need to create the tools, the system, the checks and balances that allow somebody else to do it, because you can't do it. You're going to be doing something else. So I don't care if that's shipping or that's engineering or that's your marketing. You need to create a process around it if you want it to scale, because you need somebody else to do it. And if somebody else can do it, 2 people can do it, or 3 people, or an outside agency can do it, and they can improve on it over time. But that's really what we're trying to do. And we try it through various steps. And this is something that I struggle with all the time. As we're growing and we're changing, we're evolving, those processes change and evolve. As we get feedback from the market, the requirements for our process change, right? So our business product changes, but we still have to go through this development process. The first thing of the Frankenstein is really just that market modeling, going and looking at other companies that are in our space. How do they talk about their business? What processes do they use? What can we learn from other people? And how can we kind of duct tape that together, walk through it, map it out? I'm not going to use CAD. I might use a flowchart tool. I might use a Word document. I might use pictures or a movie, right? But how can I document what that process should look like? And then how can I step through it myself, make those changes, and then train somebody else to do it, and then know that it's clear enough where I can get another person and another person to do it. That's what creates a scalable business. And for some reason, this makes more sense to people on the business level, but then when they want to develop a product, this makes zero sense to them on the product level. They want to actually just do everything themselves. They want to work on a $20 an hour job, packing parts and shipping parts, versus the $2,000 or $20,000 an hour job of actually running their business, right? So think of prototyping, think of the goals of the prototyping, and then think about how that correlates to your business, growing your business and your business goals. I'm Callie Keene. This has been End Hype. We just talked a lot about prototyping. If you have any questions, DM me. I'd be happy to answer, or make a podcast a podcast episode or a piece of micro content about it. That's how we get these ideas. This is a big topic that people keep asking me about, because they're right in the middle of things. People are at home right now. They're sketching out their ideas. I love seeing them. They're sending me messages about their business plan. You can always pitch us at redbluecollective.com. I have a little pitch us button, just lets us know kind of where you are in the process and see if there's a good fit. But feel free to DM me on, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I'll point you in the right direction. If I can't help you, I'll point you to another expert that can help you. But it's awesome to see people taking those ideas, going out and buying 3D printers and getting CAD and drawing it up and printing it. And they're like, hey, look, I have this product. What should I do? I'm like, okay, go find, here's this manufacturer. Here's this thing. Go take this, go ask this person. It's just really cool. And that's one of the reasons that we're putting out all this content. So, to be able to engage with people and be a part of what they're trying to do, them changing their life, them trying to change the world, just doing interesting things, right? So I'm going to post a link below to that PRD like I promised. I know it's a little dry. It's not super exciting, but trust me that this is a really impactful tool that will save you time and money, especially if you're going to work with other people, right? Especially if you're going to work with an outside manufacturer, an outside design company, a partner. Clarity is the one thing that you can do that will lower all your costs forever. So I'm going to put that link below, and thank you.